Tonight on Kitchen All Over the World, I finally get to drag this giant bag of peanut flour off the shelf. It's Mkhwani from Malawi. Join me. So I held off on doing this recipe for a while because I couldn't get my hands on these. These are pumpkin leaves. It's not that they don't grow natively where I live, it's that they're not cultivated for eating. Luckily for me, my girlfriend has a garden in her backyard and her mother was willing to plant a few. So this is what the leaves look like. They're big, they're broad, and if you look close by the stems, they have a large number of little thorns. Not sharp enough to hurt you, but not soft enough to go down your throat easily. What you're going to want to do in order to prepare these is remove the membrane from the veins. And to do that, the easiest way that I found was press your finger down towards the sort of crotch of the leaves and pull, and they should pop right off. Try to avoid as much of the vein as possible because most of it has those thorns on it. Let's chop those leaves into little squares, let's say 2 by 2 centimeters or 1 inch by 1 inch. Into a large pot, throw about a cup of water, and then let's salt the water. And once it's boiling, we're gonna dump in the leaves. I got about 3 cups of leaves here. Next up, we're gonna add some tomatoes. So for each cup of leaves, add 1 vine tomato. And this is peanut flour that I have been sitting on since I first decided to make this recipe about half a year ago, before I realized that I couldn't get my hands on actual pumpkin leaves. We're gonna dump a half a cup of that in here and stir it in. Once it's all mixed up, go ahead and throw on the lid to the pot, reduce to medium-low, and let it go for about 5 to 10 minutes until the leaves start to break down a little bit and it turns into sort of a saute kind of a texture. Next up is the nsima. It's a cornflour porridge. You may remember pop from Botswana. Nsima is essentially the same thing. In this case, I'm doing about 2.5 cups of water to 1 cup of the flour. Take a little bit and sprinkle it in, but keep stirring it, stirring it until it gets to consistency of, I don't know, like a bread dough almost. It'll pull away from the sides of the pot, and that's about it. So it's summertime and it's a hot kitchen, and the amount of stirring that went into this nsima, just don't mind the sweating. I'm dripping right now. So let's get right into this. The way you're supposed to eat this nsima is supposedly take a little ball, make a marble size out of it, and then you make a divot in it to make it like a spoon, like that. And then you scoop this stuff up. So I'm gonna shovel it right up there, and let's find out. So the 2 biggest flavors I'm getting right now are the peanut flour and the nsima. The nsima has sort of a tangy kind of texture to it. This one is fermented. I'm not sure if all of them are fermented, the flour, but this one said specifically fermented on the bag. And the peanut flour, it's not as round and sweet as peanut butter would be, or just peanuts in general, because it doesn't have, since it's the flour, I don't think it has the oil content in it, which kind of rounds things out and lends to a deeper kind of flavor. Pumpkin leaves, they're subtle, but they have a little bit of an herbal kind of note to them. A little bit sweet, almost. The texture is unlike most vegetables I've dealt with. It's a little bit gritty, I guess is the word, or it's not smooth like spinach. And the tomatoes don't really come through so much. So the peanut flour, since it's not as robust as peanut butter could be, and since there's not that much salt that I put in the water initially, I think this would do with a little bit of salt towards the end as you're cooking the greens. I think that would really make these flavors pop a little bit more. So, word to the wise, if you're gonna recreate this, then add a little bit of salt. But overall, it's pretty delicious, and pumpkin leaves supposedly are very nutritious for you. So if you have a pumpkin patch going and didn't have any use for the leaves, well, this is definitely an option. It's a little bit of work in terms of deveining all those leaves, but relatively few number of leaves gives you a decent amount of meal.